Good morning, students. Today we have one more session, that is Alzheimer's disease. Neurological disorders we will see. Already in your theory, somebody has told, but I would like to tell you in detail about these disorders because they are very important for you and you may be asked in the examination. Examination point of view, these are very important. So we will have first we'll have Alzheimer's disease. It is nothing but a disease which is incurable, still under debate with no solutions to researchers. See, so many studies are being done in case of this Alzheimer's disease, and they couldn't identify why this Alzheimer's disease people are getting and what is the exact treatment, even though repeated researches are being done. Okay, first we will see what is Alzheimer's disease. It is an incurable neurological disease in which changes in the nerve cells of the brain result in the death of a large number of cells. This destruction of brain cells eventually leads to serious mental deterioration, dementia and death. See, this dementia, see, some people say, use this word Alzheimer's disease and dementia both are same, but there is a little difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia. What is dementia? Dementia is a broad category of brain diseases that cause long-term loss of the ability to think and reason clearly, that is severe enough to affect a person's daily functioning. See, it is a broad category of brain diseases that causes long-term loss of the ability to think. So, cognitive skills will be lost in case of dementia, and that for the person's daily functioning will be altered. Next, what is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease? Many people use the words dementia and Alzheimer's disease interchangeably, but dementia is not a disease, it is a physiological change, whereas Alzheimer's is a disease. And dementia is a group of symptoms which affect memory and reasoning, and Alzheimer's can be spotted as a cause for dementia. Alzheimer's disease mainly affects people aged between 60 and 85 years, and dementia is not a cause of Alzheimer's. And worldwide, 47.5 million people have dementia, out of which more than 5 million dementia cases are actually Alzheimer's, and there are 7.7 million new cases every year. See, because of so many risk factors and so many causes, this on the number of Alzheimer's cases have increased every year at present situation. Next, what is Alzheimer's disease and what happens in brain? See, in brain, you please remember for time being, there are abundance of two abnormal structures, beta amyloid plaques, which are dense deposits of protein and cellular material that accumulate outside and around the nerve cells. And these are neurofibrillary tangles. There are neurofibrillary tangles which are twisted fibers that build up inside the nerve cell. These two are the abnormal structures. Next, the brain state of a person having Alzheimer's disease, if you just look into the brain status and compare a normal brain with an Alzheimer's patient's brain, you can see how the folds are there in case of Alzheimer's disease and how the normal brain is there. You can just quickly go through. Next, history of Alzheimer's disease. This Alzheimer's disease was first discovered in the year 1906 by a German neurologist, Alois Alzheimer. He lived between 1864 to 1915, and a 51-year-old woman died from mental illness. She suffered from depression, paranoia, hallucinations and dementia. And Dr. Alzheimer examined her brain and found peculiar formations, that is amyloid plaques and dense bundles which are nothing but neurofibrillary tangles. And worldwide, according to 2015 statistics, nearly 44 million people have Alzheimer's or a related dementia, and only 1 in 4 people with Alzheimer's disease have been diagnosed. Alzheimer's and dementia is most common in Western Europe, followed by North America. And Alzheimer's is least prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa. Alzheimer's and other dementias are the top cause for disabilities in later life. This is as per Alzheimer's Disease International Center for Disease Control. And If you see Alzheimer's in United States, 1 in 9 Americans over 65 has Alzheimer's disease, and one third of Americans over age 85 are afflicted with this illness. 5.3 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, and Alzheimer's disease is the sixth leading cause of death in US. 1 in 3 seniors die with Alzheimer's or another kind of dementia, and typical life expectancy after an Alzheimer's diagnosis is 4 to 8 years only. In 2014, the 85-year-old and older population includes about 2 million people with Alzheimer's disease, or 40% of all people with Alzheimer's disease are above the age of 65 and older. Proportion of people with Alzheimer's disease in the United States by age 85 plus years is 38%, 75 to 84 years 44%, and 65 to 74 is 15%, less than 65 years is 4%. So about 3,60,000 new cases of Alzheimer's are diagnosed each year in US. Then what happens in Alzheimer's disease? Dr. Aloysius Alzheimer was a Bavarian-born German psychiatrist and neuropathologist and a colleague of Emil Kraepelin. Alzheimer is credited with identifying the first published case of pre-senile dementia, which Kraepelin would later identify as Alzheimer's disease. And what are the causes of Alzheimer's disease? Scientists generally agree that there is unlikely to be a single clear cause of Alzheimer's disease. No single cause can lead to Alzheimer's disease. There is a group of combination of interrelated factors, including genetic factors, which are passed along family lines of inheritance and environmental influence, which range from previous head trauma to educational level up to one's experiences early in life. A growing body of research is also helping to identify various lifestyle factors such as dietary habits, high blood pressure and high cholesterol, which may influence one's risk of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's develops as a result of complex cascade of biological processes that take place over many years inside the brain. And what are the risk factors which can cause Alzheimer's disease? Age, after age of 65 and rise sharply after age of 75. Previous slide we have seen what is the, as per age, what is the percentage of people who are suffering with Alzheimer's disease. And genetic factors or genetic inheritance is there, definitely their next generation will be suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Then family history of Alzheimer's disease. Gender, women are more prone for getting rather than men, and having Down syndrome, and any people who is every person who is having Down syndrome is more prone for getting Alzheimer's disease. Then other risk factors include Down syndrome, family history, chronic high blood pressure, head injuries, gender, smoking and drinking. And environmental factors include cigarette smoking, certain infections, metals, industrial or other toxins, use of cholesterol lowering drugs. Then what are the signs of Alzheimer's disease? There are 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's disease, like memory loss, difficulty to performing familiar tasks, problems with languages, disorientation to time and place, poor or decreased judgment, problems with abstract thinking, misplacing things, changes in mood or behavior, change in personality and loss of initiative. These are the 10 signs of Alzheimer's disease. Then what are the symptoms? Symptoms include confusion, disturbance in short-term memory, problems with attention and spatial orientation, personality changes, language difficulties, unexplained mood swings. Then during the first 2 to 4 years, people with Alzheimer's disease generally experience loss of memory for recent events and disorientation. They can't remember just what happened in the morning and what breakfast they took in the morning. They will not be able to tell in the evening. So there is loss of memory for recent events and disorientation. Later the person will often have problems with progressive memory loss, judgment, concentration and speech. And loss of physical abilities similar to that seen in Parkinson's disease occurs in a small portion of affected people. Then other symptoms include the person may forget to take a bath and will have problems with one's routine course. People with Alzheimer's may also suffer sleeplessness, sundowning, confusion or agitation in the evening hours, and perseveration, repetition of the same ideas, words, movements, or thoughts. Then other symptoms include final stage disease progression includes severe problems with eating, communication, and control of bodily functions. And diagnosis. How can this Alzheimer's disease can be diagnosed? Psychiatric assessments, mental status examination, neuropsychological assessment, laboratory tests, brain imaging like CT scan, MRI, and CSF examination or electroencephalogram. These are some of the tests used to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. Then pathophysiology. Alzheimer's disease is characterized by loss of neurons and synapses in the cerebral cortex and certain subcortical regions. So there is loss of certain neurons, so that there is maybe absence of synapses, that is transmission of impulses in the cerebral cortex and certain subcortical regions. And degeneration is also present in brainstem nuclei like the locus coeruleus. Both amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles are clearly visible by microscopy in the brains of people who are affected with Alzheimer's disease. Then plaques are dense, mostly insoluble deposits of beta amyloid peptide and cellular material outside and around neurons. Tangles or neurofibrillary tangles are aggregates of the microtubule associated protein tau, which has become hyperphosphorylated and accumulate inside the cells themselves. So these two changes are seen in the brain when they have examined. And studies using MRI and PET positron emission tomography have documented reductions in the size of specific brain regions in people with Alzheimer's disease as they progress from mild cognitive impairment to Alzheimer's disease. And the previous slide we have seen how a normal brain is there and how a brain affected with Alzheimer's disease is there. And histopathologic image of senile plaques is seen in the cerebral cortex of a person with Alzheimer's disease of pre-senile onset. So you can see silver impregnations after staining the slide. Then Alzheimer's disease has been identified as a protein misfolding disease or proteopathy caused by plaque accumulation of abnormally folded beta amyloid and tau amyloid proteins in the brain. This Alzheimer's disease is also considered as tauopathy due to abnormal aggregation of tau protein. A protein called tau stabilizes the microtubules when phosphorylated and is therefore called a microtubule associated protein. So you can see these enzymes which act on the amyloid precursor protein and cut into fragments. The beta amyloid fragment is crucial in the formation of senile plaques in Alzheimer's disease. So the role of plaques and tangles. These plaques and tangles tend to spread through the cortex as Alzheimer's progresses. And two abnormal structures called plaques and tangles are prime suspects in damaging and killing nerve cells. Plaques are deposits of a protein fragment called beta amyloid that build up in the spaces between the nerve cells. Tangles are twisted fibers of another protein called tau that build up inside the cells. These changes can lead to Alzheimer's disease and may lead to damage to the nerve cells in the brain. Then there are 7 stages of Alzheimer's disease. Stage 1, the people may be normal, and stage 2, normal aged forgetfulness will be there. So sometimes they forget. And stage 3, mild cognitive impairment may be there, and in stage 4, mild Alzheimer's disease will be there, and stage 5, moderate Alzheimer's disease, and stage 6, moderately severe Alzheimer's disease, and stage 7, severe Alzheimer's disease. Next, diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. This Alzheimer's disease is usually diagnosed based on the person's history from relatives and observations of the person's behaviors. The diagnosis include tests like eye drop test, genetic test, spinal fluid test, various types of neuropsychologic and or cognitive tests, and brain imaging tests. Advanced medical imaging with computed tomography and with single photon emission computed tomography, SPECT, and diet and management. So people who eat a Mediterranean diet have a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease and it may improve outcomes in those with the disease. There is a tentative evidence that caffeine may be protective. A number of foods high in flavonoids such as cocoa, red wine, and tea may decrease the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Right? Coming to the management, there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease. Available treatments offer relatively small symptomatic benefit but remain palliative in nature. There is no permanent cure for this, but the process may be delayed by some of the treatments. And at present, there is no definitive evidence to support any particular measure is effective in preventing Alzheimer's disease. Global studies of measures to prevent or delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease have often produced inconsistent results. And epidemiological studies have proposed relationships between certain modifiable factors such as diet, cardiovascular risk, pharmaceutical products, or intellectual activities, among others, and a population's likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease. The intellectual activities such as playing chess or regular social interaction have been linked to reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease in epidemiological studies, although no causal relationships has been found. Then treatment, new drugs for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease are now available. These drugs increase the brain levels of acetylcholine, a chemical involved in memory functions. The first of the drugs approved is Tacrin requires frequent blood tests for monitoring. More recently, Donepezil was also approved by FDA. Mm, these drugs do not cure Alzheimer's or stop its progression but may provide some symptomatic benefit. The person with Alzheimer's will need good medical follow-up throughout the course of the disease. If the person experiences delusions or great psychological stress, careful use of drugs to treat these symptoms may be indicated. And the lifespan of someone with Alzheimer's can range from under 5 to more than 20 years. Families caring for a loved one with end-stage Alzheimer's should give thoughtful consideration to placement in a skilled nursing facility where adequate management and supervision can be provided. So then what are the drugs? Memantine or galantamine, rivastigmine, donepezil, and tacrin. These are the various drugs approved by you approved for using for Alzheimer's disease. So, and some studies could support that blueberries could be used to fight Alzheimer's. Research suggests two small-scale studies into the effects of freeze-dried blueberry powder suggest that the berries could help improve brain function and cognitive abilities. Next, drinking tea could help stave off cognitive decline. A new study suggests that regular tea consumption may reduce the risk of cognitive decline, especially for those at genetic risk of Alzheimer's disease. Next, Mediterranean diet may slow cognitive decline and prevent Alzheimer's disease. A new review finds higher adherence to the Mediterranean diet may slow cognitive decline and lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease. And the people, we are the people who take Mediterranean diet, like includes all foods in our diet, like leafy vegetables, fruits, and all coffee, tea. We have the habit of taking coffee, tea, and so we follow Mediterranean diet. So in our India, there are less chances for getting Alzheimer's disease. Next, dancing may help to combat brain aging. Researchers have found that both strength endurance training and dancing increased hippocampal volume in the brain, but the latter has the greatest. The dancing has the greatest can help to decrease brain aging. Then anxiety may be an early sign of Alzheimer's disease. So new research has linked increasing symptoms of anxiety in older adults to higher brain levels of beta amyloid, a protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. Then coming to the nursing management. First, history taking. How the scheme of management follows this history taking, physical and neurological examination, mental status examination, functional assessment, laboratory workup and neuroimaging. First, history taking. History taking, collateral history is very important from patient and informant one who lives with the patient throughout the day, taking care of patient, helping in daily activities. And these are the people who can give you exactly what is happening in case of patients. And another informant to confirm findings of suspected cases of abuse and neglect. And attention should be paid to mode of onset, cause of progression, pattern of cognitive impairment, presence of non-cognitive symptoms such as behavioral disturbance, hallucinations, and delusions. Then, history taking as per ABC is activities of daily living. How the patient is doing his activities every day, behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia and cognition, whether the patient could understand what you tell or not. So, these things has to be taken in history. Then symptoms and decreased functions of different cognitive domains like changes in memory, amnesia, poor short-term recall, frequently loses items, gets lost easily, fails to recognize familiar persons, poor attentional concentration, doesn't appear to listen, gets confused in conversations, thus poorly in complex situations, changes in language functioning, aphasia, agnosia, and this fluency um, changes in um, visuospatial abilities, difficulty drawing, difficulty navigating, using a map or understanding directions, and misperceiving the environment, impaired executive function, perseverance, poor judgment, rigidity in thought, changes in emotional functioning, increased anxiety, increased depression, psychosis, fluctuations in mental status, and disorientation. These are the symptoms you can one can observe these cognitive domains in the patient. Then history taking daily activities, basic activities like how the patient is bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring continence, eating, etc. And the instrumental activities like whether the patient is able to use telephone, is he able to do shopping, food preparation, laundry, housekeeping, ability to handle finances, responsibility of own medication, mode of transportation. Then behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia. Types of delusions encountered in Alzheimer's disease. Patient believes that she is in danger, that others are planning to hurt him, others are stealing from him, spouse is having an affair, unwelcome guests are living in their house, spouses or others are not who they claim to be, and her house is not her home, family members plan to abandon him, and television or magazine figures are actually present in the home. Okay, these symptoms patients will be, or the informants will be telling about the patient. Then, then you need to take past history, family history, medication history, medical history, family assessment, and examination, generalized physical examination, systematic examination like neurological examination and mental status examination must be done. Then cognitive assessment can be done by mini mental status examination and Hindi mental status examination and Hindi cognitive screening test. Detailed assessment can be done by separate tests for each cognitive domains. Based on the basic assessment, the patient can be categorized into mild, moderate, and severe. See here, clock drawing test. If the patient has a mini mental status examination more than 24 hours, try for clock drawing test. And if CBT is abnormal, then dementia is confirmed. Then recommendations for diagnostic criteria. Criteria should be used for the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease (ADRT). The Hachinsky ischemic scale or means Aaron's criteria may be used to assist in the diagnosis of vascular dementia. Then diagnostic criteria for dementia with Lewy bodies and frontotemporal dementia should be considered in clinical assessment. Clinical criteria for dementia with Lewy bodies, frontotemporal dementia are not closely associated with neuropathological diagnosis but can still provide useful differentiating clinical features. So you can see what are the abbreviations I have given below. You can go through. Then coming to the diagnosis, initial cognitive testing. NMSC is used widely for screening purpose. It provides superficial assessment of memory, language, visual perceptual function. Processing speed and executive function are not tested. Evidence from a systematic review has shown that the MMSC is suitable for the detection of dementia in individuals with suspected cognitive impairment. And recommendations for individuals with suspected cognitive impairment, the mini mental status examination should be used in the diagnosis of dementia. Initial cognitive testing can be improved by the use of Adam's cognitive examination or Montreal cognitive assessment. The questionnaire such as the IQ code completed by a relative or friend may be used in the diagnosis of dementia. Next, Alzheimer's disease assessment scale cognitive and non-cognitive sections. Cambridge assessment of memory and cognition. PGI battery of brain dysfunction. Enhanced neuropsychological battery for elderly and AIMS comprehensive neuropsychological battery in the for assessment of lower functions. So recommendations for neuropsychological testing, assessment of cognition is useful in both the initial and differential diagnosis of dementia. It is possible to detect even very early Alzheimer's disease using neuropsychological testing. Neuropsychology is superior to imaging in discriminating people with Alzheimer's disease from controls. And neuropsychological testing also aids in differential diagnosis of dementia. And FTD is characterized by deficits of semantic memory and attention or executive function rather than the episodic memory deficit seen in Alzheimer's disease. And dementia with Lewy bodies has more pronounced visual-perceptual and frontal impairment compared to Alzheimer's disease. And vascular dementia exhibits executive dysfunction, and depression shows the subcortical pattern of cognitive impairment. Next, recommendations for neuropsychological testing. Recommendations: neuropsychological testing should be used in the diagnosis of dementia, especially in patients where dementia is not clinically obvious. And it may be useful to repeat neuropsychological testing after 6 to 12 months in patients where the diagnosis is unclear. Measurement of regulation of deficits in a typical pattern supports the diagnosis of dementia and helps in differential diagnosis. Then laboratory marker protein blood examination, CBC, renal function test, liver function test, RBS, lipid profile, vitamin B12 and folate, and vitamin D3, serum homocysteine level, and urine routine and microscopic examination can be done, but screening for genetic markers is not recommended. Next, there is insufficient evidence to support routine use of CSF markers in the diagnosis of dementia. Recommendations of CSF and EEG examinations are not recommended as routine investigations for dementia, and CSF and EEG examination may be useful where CJD is suspected. Then the use of image and the ability of clinical examination to predict a structural lesion has been reported as having sensitivity and specificity up to 90%. So imaging includes CT scan, MRI, and SPECT and PET scan. So assessment of delay recall is at least as good as volumetric MRI in distinguishing people with portable Alzheimer's disease and controls. And structural imaging should ideally form part of diagnostic workup of patients with suspected dementia. And CT may be used in combination with CT to aid the differential diagnosis of dementia when the diagnosis is in doubt. And consequently, Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia. It happens when plaques containing beta amyloid form in the brain. As symptoms worsen, it becomes harder for people to remember recent events, to reason, and to recognize people they know. Eventually, a person with Alzheimer's is likely to need full-time assistance. Then coming to the nursing care. The primary nursing diagnosis is a self-care deficit related to impaired cognitive and motor function. So outcomes are our goals are activities of daily living like bathing, hygiene, eating, toileting, cognitive ability, comfort, level, role performance, and social interaction skills and hope. So interventions for this are self-care assistance like bathing and hygiene, oral health management, behavior management, body image enhancement, emotional support, mutual goal setting, exercise therapy, and discharge planning. And another nursing diagnosis is risk for injury related to unable to recognize or identify hazards in the environment, disorientation, confusion, impaired decision making, weakness, the muscles are not coordinated, the presence of seizure activity. So nursing interventions are establish an effective communication with the patient and his family to help them adjust to the patient's altered cognitive abilities, provide emotional support to the patient and his family, administer ordered medications and note their effects. If the patient has trouble swallowing, crush tablets and open capsules and mix them with a semi-soft food. Protect the patient from injury by providing a safe structured environment. Provide rest periods between activities because the patient tires easily and encourage the patient to exercise as ordered to help maintain mobility. Then encourage patient independence and allow ample time for him to perform the task. Encourage sufficient fluid intake and adequate nutrition. Take the patient to the bathroom at least every 2 hours and make sure he knows the location of the bathroom. Assist the patient with hygiene and dressing as necessary. Frequently check that the patient's vital signs. Monitor the patient's fluid and food intake to detect imbalances. Inspect the patient's skin for evidence of trauma such as bruises or skin breakdown. Encourage the family to allow the patient as much independence as possible while ensuring safety to the patient and others. Okay, so this is okay. So this is about Alzheimer's disease. Next session we will see some more neurological disorders.